Kamala's 180 on the border wall is the latest idea she stole from Trump. RNC's lawsuit claims Detroit hired 7 times more Democrat poll workers than Republicans, violating state laws. And a Times article says ultra-processed foods aren't bad after flip-flopping on their original article. You're going to get all of this in the next 30 minutes on The Breakaway Show with David and Fabian here. Fabian, you ready to do this?
It is. There are some incredible news stories coming out that we need to talk about. And if you're listening at home, the next 30 minutes, you're going to get everything dialed in. So let's do it.
Yep. And as always, share, subscribe, like, and let's get this thing rolling. So Kamala's 180 on the border wall is just her latest new flip-flop. She's earned the new title for herself, Flip-Flop Chameleon Kamala.
Chameleon Kamala.
All of these various things, but never in a million years I would have thought that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, we got to figure out, like, what does he think about this, flip-flopped on the border wall. So at her DNC speech, Harris pledged to bring back border security bill that was killed in the Senate, which pledged hundreds of millions of dollars of federal funding for a border wall. Now, Fabian, not only that, but I want to give you the timeline of Kamala Harris here as she's flip-flopped on this border wall position, because as early as 2017, she started to talk about the border wall because obviously that's when Trump was running. I believe she was a senator, if maybe not a senator just yet. 2017, asking taxpayers to pay for a border wall is a terrible idea. 2018, funding Trump's unrealistic border wall would be a gross misissue of taxpayer money. 2019, Trump's border wall is stupid. 2020, as I said, Trump's border wall is a complete waste of taxpayers' money and wouldn't make us any safer. 2021 becomes border czar and lets millions of illegals in. This proceeds in 2022, 2023, just for us to hear in 2024 at the DNC speech, build the wall.
There's also something else that Tim Walz said. Tim Walz said something to the effect of, if you make it a 25-foot wall, I'll bring a 30-foot ladder. Effectively saying it doesn't matter. Let's just get over it. So the flip-flopping has reached a new level. She's also not only flip-flopping, she's also copying Donald Trump's every single policy, because apparently she can't make her own that aren't socialist based, like price gouging and other things that she said. So I don't understand what they think this is going to do, because if you're saying we need to be equitable and give justice for everyone and let everyone in the border, but now we want to build a wall with only a few $100 million, which clearly is not going to cover the entirety of what needs to be built, then what exactly is she trying to do? Who is she appealing to? And who is she okay with losing because of this wall issue?
I think that what they're doing is trying to play a smart political game to where they're trying to appeal to moderates, especially those independent voters that they rely on in order to win the election, by having Kamala be this moderate individual all of a sudden, while Tim Walz continues to appeal to the very extremist ones. Because I know for a fact Tim Walz isn't sitting there and is thrilled about the fact that Kamala just said that we're going to build a wall. And I don't think that he would have signed on to this ticket knowing that before. So I think it's actually a strategic plan behind the scenes there to try and make it seem as though that there aren't this extremist ticket. Because again, I've made this claim multiple times now. When you have Trump and Vance as a ticket and you have Tim Walz and Kamala Harris as a ticket, the more moderate ticket is 100% Trump and Vance. The Kamala Harris, Tim Walz, they're the ones that have been appealing to the extremist ones, disenfranchising the center left away from them. So I think it's just a smart plan, honestly.
Going back to Tim Walz, I don't think the party cares about what he thinks, because we just had a president we have a president in office that had a soft coup performed on him in Joe Biden. And all of a sudden, everything went from we love Biden, he's not going to drop out, and now no one is talking about Joe Biden. He disappeared. Then he issued a letter saying he was not going to run again, and we didn't see him for a while. And then, to add insult to injury, they had him speak on the first night of the Democratic National Convention to get him out of the way. You don't see any signs of Joe Biden. You don't see anything. No one is talking about him. So Tim Walz comes in here. I don't think they give a crap what he says or what he wants. He's either going to be on it or he's going to have his reputation destroyed if he talks out too much against them. That's how I feel things are happening behind the scenes.
Now, I also think about another thing here. So another angle. Kamala Harris and Democrats know that they're literally copying Donald Trump's policies? Is it because they're suddenly very popular? And is the messaging that they're putting forward is that we will give you Trump's very popular policies just without Trump and without the Republican Party? I don't really buy it. I think that they're really trying to manipulate these independent voters. They're trying to, they again solidified the very far left base here by putting Tim Walz on the ticket. And now they're gradually trying to appeal more and more to moderates, which is very strategic, I have to say. But the question that I have, are they this stupid? Are independent voters this stupid to sit there and to think that that Kamala Harris is all of a sudden a moderate? Her administration hasn't. Okay, I have to give it. Biden has done a good amount of stuff that has been moderate, but Kamala Harris doesn't support that stuff. He doesn't support his stance on Israel. Doesn't support even trying to do anything with illegal immigration, but all of a sudden supports a border wall. It's something funky.
I have to go back to the point that you made, that they're probably seeing the polls, seeing what matters to voters, and then seeing what else they could propose to siphon votes away from Trump. The price gouging didn't work. Nothing she's done has worked. It's only gotten worse for her. So instead of proposing more socialist policies, she's trying to go maybe to the right a little bit just to appease those voters. We all know nothing is going to happen at the border that's good if she takes office. We know this wall will never get built in a million years. We know she was against it. And the sad thing is, going back to John Kerry, who was, as far as I remember, the original person who they called a flip-flopper, he was destroyed because he made one little flip-flop or one little lie. And it wasn't a small lie, but it was a lie. Kamala Harris literally lies about everything and then says, oh, actually, I want to do it now. Not only that, but we know these are not her policies. We know there's people are telling her what to say, which is even more scary because who are you actually running against? It's not even a candidate at this point. It's literally the deep state, this machine that is making her look presidential when we all know, we all see the raw videos of her cackling like a goose, not knowing what she's saying, giving us this socialist word salad. And that makes it even scarier because we're not only fighting against one person, we're fighting against a system.
Absolutely. To build off on that, in 2014, 35% of voters see the border crisis as the country's number one issue. And the majority of Americans, 53% of them, support a border wall. So Harris wants to look like she does as well. And that's not the only MAGA idea she's taken over. She's copy-pasted the no taxes on tips policy that Trump has been speaking about at rallies since June. She's also proposed a $6,000 child tax credit, embracing an idea the left has been slamming Senator J.D. Vance for. All of this various stuff, and I think you're absolutely right that is she. I don't. The one benefit that she has is that as she continues to flip-flop like this, she doesn't still have anything on her website as an official policy platform. And obviously it takes months and months to establish an official policy platform in depth and whatnot. But that's the advantage she has right now. That she puts all of this various stuff out, sees if it appeals to people. And if it does, she keeps it on as a talking point. And so do the surrogates. And that's why you'll probably hear, it'll be funny if I'm right on this prediction, that within the next 24 to 48 hours, the surrogates on CNN, MSNBC are going to start parroting this talking point of, we need a border wall. We've been wanting a border wall for a while. We're the ones that are actually going to pass legislation to get it done. We're going to tackle illegal immigration, all of this various stuff just to appeal to moderate voters.
Think about this. We're living in a world where the presidential candidate for a major political party doesn't have a policy, and it's 70 days away from the election.
69 now.
69. That should never be a thing in American politics. Aside from that, she hasn't given one sit-down interview.
Yeah, and the sit-down interview that she's going to finally have, guess what she's doing? She dragged her running mate along with her, Tim Walz, which I think just speaks to the fact that the party is so inconfident about putting her at the forefront. But she is the name at the top of the ticket, and they don't feel comfortable enough putting her to a one-on-one interview. That's how bad she is, that every time in the last 3-4 weeks that she's talked to the press without a teleprompter. It was absolute word salad. What did she say the other day about like MLK? It's like, it's MLK, so we're celebrating, or not celebrating, but we're embracing, or I don't like.
I
what
don't
is
even
she
understand.
talking about?
And then when she gets flustered, she just starts cackling. And that's her way to get out of it. And so for some reason, the people around her start clapping whenever she laughs because they think that's like a cue. Maybe it's like this little dog whistle for them to clap, and they've been trained to do that. It's despicable that in this day and age, we have a politician running for president who is so completely inept. And I've said this before. I thought George W. Bush was as dumb as we could get. I've been proven completely wrong, and I apologize to myself for thinking it couldn't get any worse, because it has, and it will continue to get worse until something changes.
Fabian, before we close this off, I just continued to reading that article, and I didn't realize just how much flip-flopping has happened in just the last week. So Tuesday, Harris's top campaign aide, emailed the news that Harris doesn't want to ban non-electric cars without actually disavowing the bills that Harris backed in the Senate to outlaw them as soon as 2035. Mm-hmm. Just more and more stuff in it. And I bet if I just continue reading more and more of this, it'll be hilarious. But they reference this as the chameleon strategy is a pure spin on Biden 2.0 agenda.
Yep.
And with that, go ahead, Fabian. Sorry.
No, I'm just saying she's literally, this is that meme of Mr. Bean where he's trying to copy the other person's paper and they're looking at him and he's trying to pass a test, but he doesn't know the answers. He's just straight copying them.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
in other news,
why don't we jump into this processing foods thing? So Fabian, take it away.
So in other news, Time Magazine has just released an article. Believe it or not, this is not satire, this is real. Labeled, "What if ultra processed foods aren't as bad as you think?" And this just came out a few days ago. Okay, Time Magazine is telling you the ultra processed foods aren't as bad as you think, which is interesting because in January 9th of 2023,
not even that long ago.
They have an article from Time Magazine labeled "Why Ultra Processed Foods Are So Bad for You." I can't make this up. They are literally doing the same thing Kamala's doing. The exact same thing, saying one thing and then saying something completely different. And a lot of people have weighed in on this, including James Lindsay, including RFK, including a lot of other big names, because of the ridiculousness of it. So let me kind of read what some people said about it. So James Lindsay said, "I am once again reminding you that Time Magazine is owned by Mark Benioff, who is closely tied to the World Economic Forum and its agendas." RFK also came out and said, "Yeah, what if? And what if ultra-processed foods are worse than you think?" Someone that RFK tweeted, Casey Means, actually wrote a very good paragraph and said, kind of labeled out or spread out the playbook for the Democrats or for the left, and said, "Mainstream media playbook. When the culture seems to be turning towards health, rapidly spin up a BS article like this one that was published in Time. Number one, seed confusion. Confusion is key. It makes us doubt our convictions about healthy food. Key here is bringing in experts who contradict the science and say it's sensationalized or impractical to implement. Number two, normalize it. Let's talk about how nearly 80% of calories come from ultra-processed foods, so it can't be that bad. Ignore the 50% of children that have a chronic disease now. Use a meaningless anecdote like the author of the article eats 80% processed food and is feeling just fine. And number three, distract and shut down discourse by bringing in social justice. This is my favorite. Focus intensely on social justice issues and question of food access rather than science. What would people possibly eat if we change the food system towards real food?" So this is actually pretty incredible, because it reminded me, and I pulled this up, of that commercial, or it was an advertisement for Camels. And it says, "More doctors smoke Camels than any other cigarettes." And this is an article.
Because as you know, a cigarette a day keeps the doctor away.
Keep the doctor away.
That's actually really interesting. Fabian, you mentioned something about what James Lindsay first referenced, is that the Times Magazine is owned by who?
His name is Bernie. Let me find him. Mark Benioff.
And he's associated with the World Economic Forum.
He has close ties to the World Economic Forum and its agendas.
What interest may the World Economic Forum have to ensure that our society is enriched with these processed foods and are bought into the narrative that these processed foods are actually good for you?
Yeah, well, their agenda is to make us all eat bugs, because apparently eating meat is causing climate change, and we as humans and cows are part of the problem. Cow farts, the methane in the air, they say. We have to stop cows from farting. Bill Gates now, one of Bill Gates' companies is trying to figure out how to stop cows from farting. Imagine that. Because apparently cows' farts are making the earth warm.
Yeah, and I actually saw that article like a year or two ago, and what he's suggesting is that to feed them certain whatever processed things that he's making, which will make them fart less or completely stop to fart. They'll go for cows first, then they'll go to other livestock, and then they'll finally get to pets at your house, like your dog, and then it'll be you, because guess what? You produce methane.
Who wants to stop farting? Just take this pill from Bill Gates' company. 1 pill a day will keep the farts away. I don't know if it'll help your diarrhea or your gut health, but Bill Gates will make money off it.
It's crazy, man. Seriously, like I just remember him proposing that in the first place, and I was like, okay, well, if he's gonna want to eliminate that and he's not successful, then he'll say, well, we need to remove cows completely off the face of Earth, and we don't need to, because you don't need to eat meat. Look at this, whatever meatless, whatever protein fake stuff that they made, and then they'll go for again the pets, and then after the pets they'll say, hey, too many humans on this Earth. You guys are causing too much methane. We can stop you guys from farting. So. Why don't we just destroy you guys?
Yeah, well, this is a play, I think.
I put my tinfoil hat on.
That's great. We should put the rodent hats on with the tinfoil in them.
Yes.
But this is a play, I think, to buy big agra in conjunction with the World Economic Forum and the globalists who want to control the food supply. We know that big agra owns something like 80-something% of all the food supply or food manufacturing in the country, which I think is disastrous and should be broken up. I think it's one of the worst things. They're shutting down farmers, local farmers, small farmers. They're slaughtering thousands of cows, millions of cows, millions of chickens, all under the guise of it's going to be better for the people because there's something wrong with your farm. They're trying to make farmers register. They're trying to make people register if they're raising animals. They're trying to make people register or not be able to sell raw milk. It's a complete control of the food supply.
It's crazy. I had no idea. Like, I didn't know this about raw milk, that apparently the only way that you can buy raw milk, at least in my state, and it seems like a majority of states, is by signing some consent form saying that this isn't for you, for human consumption. This is for animals like livestock and, cats and whatnot.
Yep.
And I wonder why. Why didn't they make it so hard in order for you to get such, I guess, beneficial things for you as a human, yet make it so easy for you to get a $2 burger from McDonald's, which I actually just learned the patty in the burger, when they pulled the DNA from it, it showed them about 1,000 to up to 10,000 cows, different cows, making up this one single patty inside the McDonald's whatever burger.
Yep. Look, as you were speaking about that, you said, why are they banning it? And I was thinking about the process of getting raw milk to someone. It comes from the cow. They put it in a bottle and they sell it. That is the entire process. When you introduce pasteurization and all these other things, then there's more processes, and the more processes, the more money each step of that process makes. And if you can control the step of that process, then that's an entire business. So it's the simplest way. You go from the cow, you put it, and you sell it. No one can make money off that. Think about how many steps an ultra-processed McDonald's hamburger goes through. Probably thousands of steps to get all the ingredients to get to the actual McDonald's, and then fry it or however they make it in a microwave and then give it to you. That's an entire industry right there.
Seems like the Bitcoin of cows, right?
Yeah.
They're like, what the hell? How are you going to take us out of the picture?
Yep.
How are you not going to allow the federal government to be able to earn some money off of this? Yeah, I think
There's no money to be made. You don't need to have any pasteurization process vats and put the milk in or send it somewhere to get done, and then get a stamp saying that this is certified to be pasteurized milk from the government. And to do that, you have to pay probably a fee for a license, and you have to pay a fine if you don't do it. Like, there's all this money in that process.
You know what I'm actually really open-minded to is sitting there and listening to people explain to me why certain ingredients or very popular ingredients and just basic things like cereal are actually unhealthy to us, like these red dyes, blue dyes. And I don't think that that's really necessarily a conspiracy theory or somehow puts you in the same place as like anti-vax people and whatnot. I think that in reality, when you look at American products and then you look at European products and you see that the European products don't allow, I think like 70% of the ingredients that we have just in cereal, should lead people to make some certain assumptions. Now, I'm not one of these people that thinks that GMOs are bad, so I guess that conflicts me with processed foods. And I also just always think about this with 7-8 billion, I think it's more than 8 billion now people on Earth. How are you going to actually feed these people if it's not through genetically modified, foods and whatnot? Let's go back into a little bit more of the political realm. Even though processed foods, like as you guys saw, we just talked about it very much from a political angle. So the RNC lawsuit claims that Detroit hired 7 times more Democrat poll workers than Republicans, which violates state laws and I even believe federal laws. But the RNC accuses Detroit Election Commission of a completely unacceptable breach of public trust. The city of Detroit hired about 2,300 Democrat poll workers. And you want to guess? Well, 7 times less. 300 Republican election inspectors for the state's 2024 primary election. Now, the lawsuit filed with the RNC, Michigan GOP, and chairs of other counties in Detroit said that this violates state law and moreover has a legal duty to appoint an equal number of GOP and Democrat poll workers before the November election. Now, this is the same thing as when Zuckerberg took millions and millions of dollars. It didn't equally distribute it across the state. It just funneled like 75% of it into major blue cities, which what ended up happening is that when they were advertising for Democrats, that meant that they were spending $10 per individual in very, very major cities, but we're spending like 30 cents in rural areas. And we know, obviously, the difference when it comes down to the political beliefs when we adjusted the regions like that. So this is on par with what they were doing when they were funding elections. Now they want to ensure that there's not as many as many Republican poll watchers as Democrat poll watchers. So,
one thing I have to say is, Democrats, what are you so fucking scared of in an election that you can't allow a regular election to happen? You have to meddle in every single aspect of the election. RFK was just sued to make him stay on the ballot in a state that he dropped out of already. He clearly dropped out. First, they sued to not let him on. Now the Democrats sued him to keep him on the ballot.
I didn't even think about that.
This is just sheer insanity. Like every single thing the Democrats do is made to affect an election in the wrong way, using these nefarious ways. I don't want to say the word steal because we might get banned, but I already said it, so the cat's out of the bag. Like, if your policies are so damn good, let the people vote and see who wins. Like, this is just stupid.
Remember, nobody was stealing the election. They were just fortifying the election.
Fortifying it. I like that word.
Yeah, in the name of democracy, right?
In the name of democracy.
But Fabian, do you remember... this was like the day after the election in 2020. They were counting ballots in somewhere like Detroit or Philadelphia, and they poured a cardboard over the window. So nobody, the poll watchers weren't able to see it. Obviously, the media wasn't able to continue seeing what's going on behind the scenes. But again, man, one thing I have to say is that thankfully this time it seems like we have some capable people inside the RNC to do all of this and to bring these lawsuits like we're seeing in Detroit before the damn election. Because in 2020, they waited till after the election. Majority of states already had their elections by the time that the RNC realized, oh my God, we may need to sue these mail-in ballots because they're coming 8 days after the election already finished, right? All of this was happening after the election in 2020. I'm very, very happy that I'm seeing news like this come out before the election.
Absolutely. And I know Turning Point has made it a mission. I believe the number is they want to hire 100 or have 100,000 volunteers or hired people. I'm not sure exactly
They
what.
already exceeded that. They're at 150,000 volunteers. They were able to gather 150,000 volunteers the first week after putting that announcement out.
Wow.
Yeah. There's
Imagine
a lot.
that.
I know.
Imagine that.
It's very effective this time, and I'm very, very happy to see this. But one more thing that I wanted to just add to the whole story here is that all of this is happening in Detroit with the tremendous amount of more Democrat poll watchers than Republicans. This is coming out at the same time as we're learning that states across the country keep finding thousands of foreign nationals on state voter rolls and purging them. Fabian, you read something to me about Texas the other day, right?
Yeah, Texas just purged 1 million voters from its voter rolls.
How many?
1 million.
1 million?
That is a ton.
And hold
of
up,
people.
Texas, isn't that near a big crisis right now?
I think there's something at the south, on the southern part of Texas that may be interesting to a lot of people right now. Something called the border.
The border, right? And it's kind of open and people are coming into various states and suddenly they find themselves on voter rolls and trying to vote, right? I believe in Ohio recently learned like 36 people have been officially indicted on voting, not being a citizen. Yep. or living in Ohio, right? So all of this is happening as we're learning that various, major cities aren't hiring enough poll watchers.
And also Florida, Ron DeSantis, amazing man, amazing governor.
Yep.
He just passed a law saying if you are caught with more than one ballot in your hand, it's I believe, $30,000 fine and up to, I think, 5 years in prison. So he basically is saying, if you want a ballot harvest, you can, but if we catch you, these are the ramifications. And I think that's an incredible thing to do.
It is. And I know how Democrats would have approached this. They would have said that if they find you trying to do this, then they'll give you an affordable house.
There you go.
Pay your down payment and give you $30,000 actually, right?
Or give you more ballots to go walk in and drop off.
Right. And then they'll say, well, we're deterring the problem from happening. I applied that obviously to immigration there, but
that's a democratic way.
It is the democratic way. So baby, smash that like button, subscribe, share this with all of your friends, and tune back in for another great episode with David and Fabian.